So you've got a business. But what about a brand? The difference? More of you. Wix gives you the freedom to create your website, own your brand, and do it on your own, exactly how you envisioned it. Experience limitless customization. Boost your creativity and efficiency with AI tools for every part of your business journey. Scale up with built-in SEO, e-com, and scheduling features. Put more of you in your business. Go to Wix.com and do it all yourself.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
You're listening to Make It, the indie film podcast. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Make It podcast. I'm your host, Chris Barkley.
And I am wearing the opposite color of one Christopher Barkley because we tend to do this. Yeah, this is what we do. Sometimes it's like we do the perfect opposite. Sometimes it's perfectly balanced in the colors. It's just this crazy thing that we do. And it's just because we are just connected like that. And of course, I haven't even said my name, but I'm not going to say it because y'all should know who I am by now. Right? I mean, come on.
This is the Make It podcast. You should know who the other guy is by now. And for those just listening to this, the other guy.
Yeah, you just call me the other guy. That's so jacked up. Like,
you're Joe Pesci.
You're right, exactly. We talked about this earlier.
Well, just for the people listening, I'm wearing all black because it's snowing outside. And Nick is wearing all black. And
but really, you're wearing all black. Look at that, because he's looking at me, who's wearing black. He's like, I'm wearing all black. Yeah, Chris is wearing white. I'm wearing black with a white hat with the black emblem on it because, of course,
it an emblem?
I have to balance him out. It's
is it an emblem?
I would call it an emblem or an insignia or a logo. I mean, if we're going to go,
I'd call it a four-leaf clover.
It's nice. It balances out. It balances out your facial hair. It's nice. It works.
It really does. It's perfect.
Thank you.
Actually, all of us are kind of wearing some shade of white or black tonight, so that's pretty cool. And speaking of the others, of course, our esteemed guest with us today is the one and only Adam Schomer, and guiding us on this journey is intern Sam and producer Papa Bear. Guys, say hello.
Hello.
All right.
Howdy.
That was a happy hello.
Should they do it again? Was it happy enough? Should they do it again?
That was perfect.
And in 5, 4.
that was perfect.
Can we get you guys? Can we get ramped up? Do we need caffeine in here?
I'm ready.
Oh man, you're on something already.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Well, let's circle back to you, Adam. I know that right now you are, when this, just full disclosure, we are recording this on January the 9th. And right now in LA are probably the most apocalyptic fires that I can remember seeing. Adam, you're kind of down the street from this. How are you holding up?
Good. We took off. Thanks for mentioning that. That's why my lights, as a director and producer, my light's not that great, nor is my microphone. But we're just camped. We got out pretty early, camped up in a hotel. The fire, I think the evacuation's about a mile from my house, so we just left early, preventatively, and thankful to be safe. And it seems so far a lot of people are safe. Maybe a lot of buildings are going down, but the human toll has been relatively low. So, thank God for that.
And I love your attitude about it. And I know we're going to talk about this later in the conversation, just about your sort of history with spirituality and meditation and your ability to sort of look past the possessions and really see it as you do have your life, though. And your whole personality is like that. I've really caught onto that like immediately, is just in this short time that we were talking before we hit the record button. Your whole sort of center is sort of so anti-materialistic which I don't want to say all producers are the opposite of that, but we've met producers that are the opposite of that for sure. And that producer in you is what allowed you to pack up and leave early. So I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're doing well. And I'm glad you have the right perspective. With that being said, can you tell the audience a little bit more about you and what they might know you for and what's going on in your life now from a film perspective?
Yeah, my name's Adam Schomer. I'm director and producer of documentary films. The films and series, right, tend to focus on empowerment, a lot of the inner journey. There's always got to be something fun to watch, so, be it motorcycling through the Himalayas. High risk gives high reward. Like, we grow when we challenge ourselves. So I love documentaries that do that. Heal is a well-known documentary in the wellness space. And of course, when you're facing life and death, that's a huge challenge. Likewise, like the motorcycle in the Himalayas, Road to Dharma, Highest Pass, Facing Death. And then Selling Superman, the one we just released, on the surface, comic books, hidden collection, but underneath there's this real family trauma and really what's inner power, and how do we, sometimes not value ourselves because our parents gave us whatever conditioning, society gave us certain conditioning. This is all fascinating to me, like why we value ourselves the way we do. So that's what really lights me up and makes me want to tell a story. But of course, there's got to be a fun through line. And would you sell this Superman #1 worth $3 million and the buddy journey? But underneath it, I want to know, how people tick and how we can improve ourselves, and not in a self-help way, but improve meaning become more happy and more at peace with ourselves, and hopefully a little more kind to ourselves. I think there's epidemic of self-hate out there, to be honest. So
self-hate and loneliness, it's a real problem that we have right now. That is, and everyone's been mentioning the loneliness, and I feel like that's an echo chamber thing, but very few people mention the self-hate. I think that is a really, really, really big deal. And we like to see people burn because we don't like ourselves the way we should. That is a really important point. And I have to tell you, and I don't know if I can speak for you, Nick, on this, or Papa Bear or Sam, but for me, I had a really fun time on the journey in preparation for this conversation, watching the docuseries Selling Superman. We have a friend who is a comic book dealer, has a business, and getting his feedback on what that collection meant to his business. And some of it definitely meant something. You were impacting through this film, and Darren, who we'll talk about, who's I would say the protagonist of the documentary. Yeah. Was doing through this collection and how it was driving prices up and down for people who were thousands of miles away in this comic book industry. But the documentary is beautiful. I think everybody should go watch it. Selling Superman is tremendous. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a 4-part series. Guys, it's $12.
Right.
$12. That's it. That's your commitment. You have it. You own it. You watch it. And I came to realize, because I do know a few people who love comic books and collect them, that these stories always tend to be father and son stories for some reason. Either the reason you're collecting or the reason you love comic books in the first place, or you look to superheroes as heroes instead of real men, let's say, is a father and son thing. That's been my personal experience. Can you speak to your feelings on that at all? Like, what did you notice coming out of this experience with Darren and the rest of the folks who actually love comics that were in the documentary, including yourself?
Yeah.
If you want to add that in there.
Sure. I think it's a great observation because, I'm not embedded in the comic book world. I came in as an outsider, right? Darren I knew from high school, so he tipped me off to this story about 3 years ago. And, it's not something I knew about. I didn't know that I have Asperger's, didn't know they were collecting, didn't know it was hidden in the house. So it's by fate that, I was meant to make this film, that his buddy that he could trust, makes documentaries. So I didn't know much about the collectors and comic book people, those that love comic books. I always thought it was kind of an escape, the comic book world, from life. Like, let's go somewhere where it's good and evil. And I never thought so much of maybe, father, son. But then the more I got to know the comic book world, the less I see it as an escape and more as just community and just like sports. We all, love talking about stuff together. And I think, when you look at it like community and bonding, then you go, oh, well, if I didn't have the bond with certain people, be it family, be it fathers, you're going to try and make a family somehow. And with Darren, he really had a disjointed, father-son relationship. His father couldn't express emotion well, couldn't notice his emotion, just, provided well, but didn't really give much love, right? So for Darren to try and rewrite that story and make comic books a good thing instead of this hidden thing, he couldn't even read the comic books with his dad. It's kind of really, really strange.
Right.
Darren, I think, is really trying to rewrite a father-son relationship. And, when you look at Superman, you're like, oh, wow, there's so much father-son there, right? Like Superman's father on Earth really gives some good advice. I mean, I was able to splice that into the for second episode where he's like, life is much, I think you're here for something more than touchdowns, like to use your power for something more than just success. And I really, early on in the process of that film, I thought that was important because we do need a father that can guide us in the right way. And if we don't have that, we can be maybe, or if it's not a father, we need some role models that say like, what's actually important to us? Is it touchdowns? Is it money? Is it happiness? And it becomes, I think, more and more clear how much we're created in some ways by our parents, until we uncreate that. That's my take on all of humanity, I think, in short,
You're the anti-Andrew Tate.
Less. Yeah, but I see it a little bit less about the father-son thing. I think that's definitely a through line, in the series, of course, because that's interesting about his father's legacy. Mm-hmm. But with the comics, I often saw it like, if you think about it like this is a crazy way to think about comics. I'm just going to throw this out at you because I thought about this at one point in my life. It's kind of like the Bible. It's like, what? Wait, what? What did I just say?
What?
Where are these kids learning the difference between good and evil?
Yeah.
It's through these heroes, because you can look at pretty much every superhero until you start getting into the, some I would say different types of superheroes that you have today, where they're a little bit good, a little bit bad.
They're the anti-hero. But the first anti-hero I fell in love with was Storm Shadow from G.I. Joe.
Right. But
notice I didn't get that from the Bible. I got it from
right. What I'm saying, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. But that's the idea, was that these are the people we're supposed to look up to. We're looking up to the ones that, I mean, dude, Batman, just kill the Joker. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's thinking that. Like, just kill him. Just get rid of him. Get rid of the Penguin. But we're not going to do that, because now you are becoming, you're embodying the evil that we don't want. So that was it for me. It was like, that's the thing, is that they need someone, just like Adam is saying, they need someone to tell them what is the difference between good and evil, and then continue to reinforce that over and over and over again through every story, through every villain, because every villain in our personal lives, they don't look the same, right? I'm sure each of us has a Joker, each of us has a Penguin, each of us has a, right? And you can just kind of fill in the blank. So how do you deal with that new villain? And I think to me, that's what this gives you. And back to what Adam said, now you have an entire community of people just learning these stories and potentially leaning in to the understanding of good and evil, and having a community around the storytelling, maybe the morals and the values, and then, of course, the artwork as well that goes with it. So that's kind of how I see that comic sense, and what people are learning and really deriving from the comic world.
That's amazing. I mean, I love that, because I also saw like superheroes kind of as replacements for religion, because America kind of pushed religion aside a bit, right, in lieu of other things, capitalism or heroes.
I was just going to say that, yes.
Right. We search for saviors in some way, and that's where it steps in. And thankfully, some of the older heroes like Superman and Batman are really good humans, right? They're good people. So that's cool.
Yep. And Batman himself is a father-son story in a lot of ways, too. Just the backstory of Batman and why Bruce Wayne became Batman. And I think the way those two ideas, Nick, connect is that in some cases, I think a breakdown in that family construct, the thing that Darren, the protagonist of Selling Superman, was dealing with, along with his little brother, that leads you to comics. And then once you're there, that becomes religion because you learn good and evil. To your point. Now, in some cases, it's perfectly fine, and dad is introducing son to comics, right? But for the comic people I know that are like really, really deep into it, they don't have great relationships with their father.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
So I just and when I saw the documentary, jumped out at me, but it doesn't make it true. That's just my personal experience.
Your experience, right?
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't mean that it's a global thing. It's an interesting thing that jumped out to me, and I think it's something that one of the characters in the documentary actually said. And I think it was Josh, the one that has the kidney dialysis.
Yeah, Josh, the hatchback.
He might have mentioned that.
Kid. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's a real sympathetic character because, he's in it for the love. Him and his dad, do it together. It's really what Darren probably would have wanted. Darren loves the underdog. When he met Josh, he really, just in his life, Darren loves to help the underdog because Darren's really smart, really well built. He's kind of superhero-like.
Yeah, he looks like Superman. Yeah.
I know. But he just, and his brother has special needs. So he kind of grew up helping, right? I think as part of his persona is he likes to help the underdog. That's something to me I can clearly see with Darren. He likes to help people. He might have his own issues and things he's going through, but it doesn't stop him from helping people on the way, even if he's going through tough times.
Yeah, it's funny that he has built himself up, physically. To be that helper. That's really interesting. I did see, and I saw that, and I don't know if it was an intentional or unintentional, but I saw that sort of this dichotomy that was in there where he has this insecurity that's built up, this weakness, but on the exterior, he's a big, strong guy, and he looks like he could be a superhero from one of these comic books. He reminded me of Bruce Willis in Unbreakable.
And I was going to, in making the doc, you have to leave a lot of stuff out, right? And I really was going to kind of touch on or even put it more in the forefront that Darren, is well built and works out and all that. But in the end, I felt I didn't have to. Like you can see and you can make up your own mind as to, oh, wow, he's kind of built like a superhero. I wonder if it's because he loves Superman. His dad loves Superman, maybe more than the kids. And so you try to become that thing that your father loved. Or, or possibly too, it's like this perfectionism that we do, hit on the nose that he talks about, leads itself into the body also, where you're really trying to make the body perfect and look beautiful. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? It takes quite discipline. But if along the way you're telling yourself you're not good enough to get there, that can be a bit harmful. That's how I see it. It's like we got to treat ourselves nice along the way.
Yeah, 100%. And you've done a lot of documentaries, and we have to ask you a question as a documentarian, without giving any spoilers for the people who will go purchase this, watch it, enjoy it, etc. There's a moment in episode 3 where you have to confess that you did something to Darren. You confess this in what looks to be a warehouse, and it looks like anything could happen as you're making this confession. And I just wonder, do you think Darren would have just walked away from the documentary if you guys weren't friends in high school? And then the second part of the question is, as a documentarian, how do you feel about that incident changing the organic volition and direction of the documentary? Did that break a principle for you?
These are great questions. Great questions. So yeah, first of all, I don't think there would have been a documentary at all if Darren didn't know me and we weren't friends. I don't think he would have done it. I'm quite sure of that. And then because he knew he could trust me, he also knew I made empowering films and wasn't just going to make a salacious, reality TV show that was just preying upon him like Tiger King kind of stuff, right? And as it was, I pushed pretty far and probably a lot deeper into the internal that he might have wanted to. All right. He likes the comics and the business side, and I like the internal, and that's my prerogative as a filmmaker. Now, when we, made that mistake with the Superman one, right? When we can talk about it. I mean, I don't know if it's anyway, there's a big thing that happened.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler alert. The crew does something.
Happens.
The thing that happened with the Superman one, the crew.
Yeah.
And yeah, if at that moment he didn't know me, for sure it would end it, because it almost ended at that moment anyway. And it the film almost ended 2 or 3 other times. And that's how we begin the series, is him wanting to end the documentary when there's a lot of press coming out about him, and he makes a sale and he's just feeling really kind of like, why am I putting myself out there? So for sure, if we weren't friends, yeah, it would have been it. And then as a filmmaker, I'm not worried about the fourth wall. Like, no matter what we're impacting, we try not to in many senses, but I've been in a lot of documentaries where the crew is part of an adventure. We're in the Himalayas on motorcycles, or we're in Kazakhstan in a nuclear test site. Like, we're in it. And I like integrating us as filmmakers into the storyline. And so I didn't plan on integrating us that much, right, into the storyline. Like,
not that way, I mean?
Not that way, because some of the crew and everyone were just sick to their stomach physically because of that. Myself, I was just like, well, this is crazy, but I just have to tell him, because he wasn't there. Darren wasn't there when it happened. So I had to kind of build up the strength to, as soon as he walks in, I got to tell this guy, and that's that. No messing about. And he never even, looked at the book after that. He just left, to his credit. But so I don't mind. I don't mind that at all. I think it makes it more interesting. I think it's more honest, because we are there. And in episode 1, it's just me alone with mom, Darren, and his brother in the house. And I'm like, you're hearing me ask questions. I'm there. I'm prompting it all. And that doesn't happen like that unless I'm there. It's not like you just sit and observe and they're going to talk to each other. That doesn't happen. You know, so to me, it's more honest to recognize that you are there and can make for more interesting conversation. That's why I say early on, like, I'm not a comic book guy, and that way I'm coming at it from an angle of, how did it get this way? Why do we value these things so much? Is there a mental health issue with collecting? Is part of it, a sickness, as Chris Vogler says, but he says it's a sickness that has a great potential for healing. And I love that. He's like, it's mental health. It's a mental sickness, but it has potential for healing. And that's why it's so beautiful, because you can see kind of the hole that you might have had in your childhood or with your father and heal it. And I think that's really cool to, like, recognize a shadow and also recognize the potential of the shadow and not beat around the bush. And that only happens if, honestly, the filmmaker is approaching it a certain way. Like, why would I go interview Chris Vogler? Well, because I want him to talk about some things like this, so we're there. That's what I say. We're there, and you can't avoid that. And so I'm not like a reporter in a war just trying to observe things,
Before you ask your question,
I was going to say this, Chris. This is something just small, but you can never recognize a shadow without realizing the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. The shadow does not exist without it. So that's very cool that you found that in your story as well.
And I just want to contextualize this for people who are listening and watching. The reason this is a big deal is because what happens in the story happens to something that is valued at $3 million. And outside of that, there's an enormous emotional value, let's say priceless emotional value attached to this thing that happens. And so I don't want to give anything away for those who are going to go watch it, but it really is a major plot point and turn in the story of the documentary. So
yeah, and back to what you mentioned earlier, Chris, this idea of affecting the story. And, that's actually something that was really interesting to me, is just that idea of the documentarian. I think that we often think about the documentarian as the guy who's watching the penguins from afar, right? You don't mess with the penguins and you don't save the penguin from the sea lion. It's like, this is not that type of documentary. And there's so many. I mean, My Octopus Teacher is such a great documentary. Yeah. And the person who's making the documentary is influencing the outcome. They are part of that outcome. So sometimes we have this sense that you should be external to it. But I think what's really cool, and something that I just learned about you, is that you have to be in it. And the reason you have to be in it is because as a documentarian, there are certain things that you want to extract from the story. right? It's not, you're not a comic book guy. This isn't a film about comic books. That might be the through line that goes through it. That's the drama.
Right.
But you're trying to find the humanity in that drama. And it cannot be drawn out without you injecting yourself in the story and asking the questions that you're asking and making people actually open up where before they might not have. So I think that's a really cool thing about documentaries, and then the way that you approach your documentaries specifically.
Yeah, well said. Absolutely.
Are there any docs, before we get into Sam's audience polls, are there any docs that you've seen this year? We're approaching awards season. Outside of your own doc, excluding Selling Superman, what is the best documentary you have seen this year? In 2024, I should say.
Oh my gosh, have I? This might be a hard question because I don't know if I've. Sometimes, I it's like if you play soccer all day, you don't want to go watch soccer. So I
was
tend
just
to
going to say that. Yeah.
I tend to escape with murders in the building, like a funny comedy with Mark Stewart. But I watched the Boris Becker one, but I don't know if that was this year. I watched the Menendez one, but it wasn't a documentary. Yeah, Boris Becker was cool. Yeah. So what else?
Did you see the Beckham one?
I didn't see the Beckham. See, again, because I watch a lot of soccer, so I was like, I've had enough.
Nah, dude. So I'm a soccer guy too, just so you know. Like what's out of camera right now are my Copas, right? They're like right there. I got to keep them next to me at all times. But the Beckham one is cool, man. You'd enjoy it.
All right. I'll check it out. But even you were talking about documentaries, the next one we're making is called Aaron's Law. And I'm not directing. I brought in an amazing female to direct it, but she has experience with it revolves around sexual abuse of children and trying to stop that and a law to help stop that. She's had experience, right? And she will probably end up speaking to that and making the film because she has experience and knowing what to ask people and making people comfortable. So we're part of it. We're definitely part of it. And you got to choose the right person to tell the story in a right way. That's what I think.
Yeah, we had a filmmaker that we're cool with named Drew Maynard, and he did a Mistakes in the Making, which is a series we have on this podcast. And he talked about that in his Mistake in the Making, just being the wrong person to tell the story about this 85-year-old black man in Nashville that basically was a steward of his community and was polishing shoes and had run his own business for a long time. But he was the voice of it as a 30-something white guy. And while I get what I would say, me and Nick don't totally agree with that, but I get where he's coming from, and I get where in his mind he's like, this story could have been told better from a different voice. That's the part.
Morgan Freeman.
Right. Well, had he had different partners,
like a Twinkie,
right, in the process to ensure that the other person, the person that he was doing the documentary on, felt comfortable in opening up. And I think that sometimes shared experience is the thing that allows you to open up. And I was going to say regarding Aaron's Law and the documentary you're working on, I would highly recommend watching the short animated film called The Pachyderm.
Okay.
And I'm only recommending it to you because of the content of the story that you're going to tell. Yeah. It is something that it's a very high quality film. It is amazing, but the content of that story is difficult to recommend.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I can't recommend it to people who I know would be affected, negatively by that. But it's an amazing short film, and I would recommend that you watch it. It's an animated film.
What's the name of it again?
The Pachyderm.
The Pachyderm. Got it. I'm going to write that down. You guys heard it here. My recommendation is The Mountain Queen, and this is about a woman who has the world record for summiting Everest, I believe, the most times. And no one knows her name. She lives basically a nameless, faceless life in Connecticut.
Wow.
And for a long time, she lived with a husband who wanted to keep it that way. And that guy was also a great climber and had done a lot of summits, but was highly jealous of her and was also terribly abusive and may have had some addiction issues as well. But this story sort of chronicles her life and her ability to just remain positive throughout all this stuff that's going on and continue to summit this mountain. over and over and over again as she gets older and older and older. And this is a mountain that 20-year-olds die on trying to summit it. So it's a Netflix doc, but it really is, quite inspiring. There's a few docs I've seen this year. I don't know if Mountain Queen's the best doc I saw this year, but it's the one that's the most palatable. Anyone watching that doc will leave inspired and educated and entertained. So,
you mean like the people who watch the Make It podcast? Okay, cool.
That's right.
Just making sure we're on the same page.
You nailed it. Speaking of the Make It podcast,
I'll throw in there Tsunami.
Okay.
I watched. It's a 4 or 5 part series, Nat Geo Tsunami. It talks. I think it's from 20 years ago, the tsunami that hit, and it uses footage from everybody in the different countries to tell this story of what really happened that day. And again, I love stuff like that, where we're showing like the heroes, but also the reality of kind of what, the fires are going on right now. And it just gives you also things that like bring me to gratitude, something that inspires you or something that reminds you like, hey, this is precious, and you learn, right? So this is helpful when you, it's also why I watch Westerns. 'Cause like, God, life was pretty damn tough back then, like in the 1800s, you're like, this is some tough stuff. And then you're like, okay, it's not so bad. We're doing all right.
Right. I like that.
I'm trying to catch up with Landman.
That's crazy.
Taylor Sheridan's on a rip right now with all of his shows, 1883, and it's just
great show.
Every one of them is incredible. So he owns the zeitgeist right now. Yeah, Sam, why don't you drop some audience polls on us, my friend?
It's time. Yeah, I'm ready.
It is time.
Yeah. Okay. So for the first poll today, keeping with the comic book theme, it's pretty simple, but which superhero is the best? Okay.
Just period.
Just period.
Well,
what's the best
question
superhero?
mark, but
right.
Yeah, not period. Period, question mark, comma.
Exclamation mark. You got to add another one. Make
Hyperbang.
it all caps, bro.
Actually, it is. It's hyperbang. Yeah, it should be a hyperbang, right?
Right,
question mark, exclamation point? Yeah.
That's a hyperbang?
Is that what it's called? I've never.
That's what a hyperbang is.
So, yeah.
A hyperbang is a question mark and an exclamation point.
Because an exclamation mark is a bang, if y'all didn't know.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I didn't know that. We're learning here.
It's a fun fact. Yeah.
And a bomb is a boom.
Mm-hmm. Bing, bang, boom. Okay.
All right. Coming in at number 1, somewhat surprisingly, I'll be honest here, Superman with 45%.
Surprising.
Okay.
I don't know if there's some anticipation there. He's a hot topic.
Nah, bro. But go ahead. Go say the other 3.
Well,
what are the options?
The next one is Spider-Man. So number 2 is Spider-Man, 27%. Then closely behind, Batman with 22%.
Yeah.
And then in dead last, Wolverine with 5%.
I thought Wolverine was a tough ad.
Wait. Well, what was the question? But what was the question?
What was the best superhero?
Which superhero is the best?
Because Wolverine's not a superhero.
He is. Well, no.
You got to think about it in the zeitgeist. Got to think about it in the zeitgeist of comics, right? And I'm saying that's why he got the lowest, because people think of him as a mutant and they think about Superman as a superhero. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying, he's not a superhero. I think he is a superhero. He got superpowers,
you did just say he's not a superhero.
But I think what I'm saying is that in the community, that's the difference. That's the idea.
Yes, the community.
Is that there's a difference. So, but I'm not surprised, because think about it. I just think about it from a power standpoint. Because when you're a kid, you used to do that. Which superhero you want to be, and you go back and forth, and you always end up with Superman because he's got every power.
Yeah, that was what I don't like about Superman, actually, is that he can do too much stuff.
No, he can do everything, bro. It's great. It's great. It's like, okay, who can win in a race, Superman or Flash?
It's a good question.
And I think it's always Superman. It's like he's going to win it.
That was why I didn't like Superman versus Batman, the movie. Well, one amongst many, many reasons is that they were trying to make it seem like it was like a fair fight. It is in no way a fair fight between Superman and Batman. Batman would get in real life would have no chance. What trickery can you do with the bombs and the hooks on to Superman, who can fly and see through walls, like
The bombs and the hooks.
and the hooks and the trickery, and the car. Like I do wonder how the poll would have changed, Sam, if we would have included Iron Man in place of Wolverine.
The thing with Iron
He's not
Man,
a superhero, is he?
no, yes, he is. He definitely
Because he got
is.
super
He's
genius.
definitely a
Because he's a
superhero.
super genius. Is that why?
Well, it's Batman.
Well, the
Same
suit
thing as
makes him a
Batman.
superhero. Yeah,
One thing is
I
that
know,
it's just got a suit.
Exactly. So I'm
Iron Man and Batman basically both have money, and they use that to their advantage to save people.
Best superpower.
Yeah. That's I like that.
But does this make Wolverine? Nick, does this make Wolverine a super mutant? Is that what he is?
No, he's a hero. He saves the day. He's a superhero. And the thing is that he also, and here's a
I'm proud of you,
poll.
Nick.
Or more of a
quite
quiz.
interesting.
Who's the oldest one? And it's Wolverine. People don't know that. But he's the oldest. He's been doing it longer than any of these superheroes. So like, if you really want to put it down and be like, who's the best superhero? Nobody's been doing it longer than Wolverine. So
Wait, what do you mean by long? Like
People disagree.
he showed up in
because this dude, remember
earlier,
you can't kill this dude. You try to kill him, he wakes up, and next thing you know, it's 100 years later. This dude's been doing Wolverine stuff for centuries. Whereas he means
in story, Adam.
Exactly. I think
story,
Kal-El
okay.
he ages normally, I guess. Hey, look, comic book people, don't come after me. I'm not deep, right? So I'm not trying to hear a bunch of hate speech. Nick doesn't know what he's talking about. Kal-El was 37 times around the sun.
They
don't
are going to come for you.
Sure,
No, I'm just asking. I'm begging, bro. Don't do
There was a guy on TikTok the other day that was like, how could Sam not mention Avatar Way of the Water? It's actually hilarious. It's actually hilarious that he would leave that out. I'm like, come on. He's talking.
I don't know enough.
We don't script this. This is not a scripted show. He left one big movie out. By the way, It came out in December at the end of COVID. I think Maverick's got to get the credit for that. Anyway, Sam, what's your second poll?
The second poll. So, Adam, we know you're a big advocate for meditating. So, naturally, to blend the two, which superhero meditates? Number one, kind of unsurprising when you think about it, Professor X with 63%. Then I thought this was interesting. Hulk / Bruce Banner at 19%.
I believe it.
Because he can't get angry. I didn't understand.
Exactly. He doesn't want to get
Audience
angry.
used their
That's the
brains.
idea.
This was a good poll.
That's why I started meditating. I was a nightmare, Nick, on the soccer field. I was getting red cards, so I started meditating.
Oh, see, I could have helped you with that, bro. Like, that's awesome.
So then number 3, Doctor Strange with 11%.
Dr. Strange.
And then
I mean, I can see that. I see why.
in dead last, completely 180 opposite of the other poll, Superman 6%.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never seen.
I don't know.
Nah.
Fortress of Solitude. That's
No, he doesn't
Fortress of
meditate.
Solitude is
he
the
goes
perfect
there.
place to meditate.
I-
You're right.
that's what I'm saying.
It would be, but he goes there to connect with his people. You know what I'm saying? Like reconnect with the past and all that kind of stuff. But I see that. I see that. But that makes sense to me. You know, you got Professor X is all about the mind.
his whole
And he's
thing.
the most
What does that
calming
say about meditation, though, Nick? Like, and Adam, like, what does it say about meditation that generally people believe that if you're into that, then you must be a doctor or a professor or a heady person? And when really meditation's for everybody. Like, you go to India, is like the first one I got introduced to is an app called Sattva, I think is how you pronounce it, and it was great, and it's for everybody.
Yeah. I would say this. I would say I think it's strange that more superheroes don't meditate. It's almost like we think, oh, they have powers, they don't have any problems. And, you know, like, oh, I have all this outer power, maybe, you know, and there's not enough focus in our society on let's make somebody's inner power like the Zen warrior. Whereas, you know, maybe in the Far East, a lot of the kung fu masters and superheroes there do have that element to it. But for some reason we don't as much. Doctor Strange, for sure. That's the first guy that jumped to my mind because I think he's doing that a lot when he's like traveling through time and all this kind of, yeah.
It's like a default pose a little bit.
Well, exactly. Well, I was, you should have included, this is funny because you said that. I know he's not a superhero, but I thought about Dalsim.
Oh, for Street Fighter?
Street Fighter. Because he got powers. That's what I thought. He's like, no, he's not a superhero. I'm just, again, don't come after me. It's just one of the things I thought about.
Well, his meditation is what allows his limbs to extend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the pose that he's
I don't know if anybody,
right?
for this is for all those people who played Street Fighter 2 out there.
But here's a person that I think, so if you had just asked me which superhero I thought, and I did switch my brain into the whole X-Men world, 100% I would have said Beast.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's a good shout. I agree with that one. There was one I couldn't include because I just did a little research to see if any superheroes actually do meditate, and Daredevil was like number one. Apparently he's like depicted frequently meditating. So I was not able to include Daredevil.
Wow.
I just thought that was interesting.
Okay, so we might rerun the poll with different language, Sam, and then figure out like if we get some different results, because maybe we just, sometimes the weakness of the poll, and it doesn't happen to us a lot, so that's all good, but sometimes the weakness of the poll is that it forces us to put answers in there, or that's like the most reliable way to get responses versus saying, hey, comment below. And we might not get the multiple choice right. Or we might get 3 of the 4 spot on. So yeah, we might need to rerun that with Daredevil and see what happens with Sam.
For sure.
Those were 2 excellent polls. I appreciate you,
of course.
Swinging your polls around on us like that. That was great.
Happy to.
Thank you. Thank you very much. and with that, totally accident. And with that, we should pay some bills, should we, Nick?
Yeah, that we should, my friend.
Okay, let's do it. Let's go.
Bing bang boom.
Let's
Bing bang boom.
I don't know.
It's my ear. It's like it's in my ear. Like,
okay.
Why? It's pain.
Oh, it's just so loud.
Yeah,
all right.
so loud.
All right, let's go pay these bills. Hey everybody, Chris here, and this episode is brought to you by the feature film Midas Man. What is Midas Man? Midas Man is the first, final, and most respectful cinematic portrait of Brian Epstein. Based on an original story, Midas Man explores the life of a man who struggles to find his place in the world. Brian Epstein is celebrated today as the visionary who signed the Beatles and creating the blueprint for modern artist management. Throughout the film, Midas Man traces Brian's life from his formative years to his meteoric success and the ensuing chaos as he managed some of the biggest acts in the world. The film delves into his close relationships with family and friends and his lifelong search for love, set against an extraordinary period of cultural change. It reveals the untold story of one of history's most remarkable outsiders. Though managing the Beatles was perhaps his most viable role, it was only a part of the 1,000 lives Brian Epstein lived in just a few short years. And without further ado, I'd like to show you guys a trailer of Midas Man, which you can watch on the Olyn Network. That's OLYN. So you get there, OLYN.com. You can also find it some other places as well. But be sure to support Midas Man, support indie filmmaking, support filmmaking in general. Promise you won't be let down by it. So enjoy this trailer.
Cha-cha boom! The Cavern Club, Liverpool. The moment my life changes forever. And everything suddenly becomes so clear.
May I come in?
Oh, if you do, one of us will have to come out.
Time to shine. Those boys will be bigger than Elvis.
How was that, Mr. Martin?
I think there's some promise.
Some promise.
Owning a boat comes with a number of perks, like being able to fling your favorite fishing rod around. And here's another perk. Geico's boat insurance covers your boat and your belongings. And with specialist support from agents that are as passionate about boating as you are, there's so much value that you'll want to high-five someone. But not while you're holding your fishing rod. That's a prized possession. So hold on tight with both hands and keep it covered through boat insurance. Get more with Geico.
And we're back to the show, and this is a perfect time to hop into some things we should know. Papa Bear, can you drop it on us? What's this episode's things we should know?
And the way you said it, I was like, he's gonna like drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
Yep.
Well, sure. Let's have some things we should know.
Sure. Let's go.
Well, we all know that comic strips.
Shout out to Snoop Dogg.
Comic strips led to the comic books. But my question for you is, what was the first known comic book printed in America, and in what year was it printed? And for Chris and Nick, a hint.
Oh, God.
It was not 1914.
You're right.
Okay. That's an inside joke, Adam. We always guess 1914 or 1918, but he did not say the answer was not 1918, which means it probably is 1918. Okay. So first, say the question again.
So let's say it again. Yeah. What was the first known comic book printed in America, and in what year was it printed?
First known comic book printed. You got anything, Adam?
So unfair.
What do you think?
You asked the non-comic book guy.
Correct. Because
question.
I would be like in the it would be Action Comics 1 in 1938, 9 right there. But that's all. That's to me the first superhero comic book, but not comic book. So before that, it was more.
Yeah, it's careful wording there.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a comic book though, not a strip.
Yeah,
correct.
It's a comic book printed.
Okay,
correct.
That was more like a.
You got something, Sam?
It's got to be early. Like I would think surprisingly.
PB, when was
early.
World War II?
1942. But World War I, just after World War I, I think ended in 19. Is that right?
Yeah, World War I ended in 1919. World War II ended in 1945.
45. Okay, so World War II maybe started in 42.
Okay.
PB, you were in World War I and II. Tell us the dates. Tell us the dates of these things so we don't have to guess so much.
The dates of the wars? 1918 for World War I and 1941 for World War II.
Thank you.
Yeah, but
I'm going to say 1942.
Okay, Nick, I'm writing these down. Nick, you have 1942. Sam, you've got what?
I'm going to go early. I'm going to go 1925. So
1925.
Years.
Shout out to Warren G. Harding. And the okay,
regulator.
Yeah, Warren G. Harding.
Okay, and
we're looking for the year or the name of the book. Which one do we want here?
Well,
we looked at both, right?
It'd be nice to have both. If you get either one, we'll take it. But what?
I'm giving a year.
Yeah, what character is this book about?
Popeye.
Ooh,
okay, Nick's got
like
Popeye.
That.
I'm going to go with it's some like Doolittle character, something like that. It's like
exactly.
Yeah,
okay,
like that.
Adam's got Doolittle.
Doolittle, husband, wife, probably in the late 20s, 1929. I'm going to go. There we go.
Oh, so Adam's changing. He's going to 29 instead of 39. Okay, 1929. Okay. Sam, you got a character?
I'm going to go with the Smurfs.
The Smurfs? That's immediately wrong.
In 1925.
That's what we're going with. I'm standing with it.
That's immediately incorrect.
That sounds like Sam is...
I know I got that one over here.
Sam is throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
Not on the year, but who knows?
I'm gonna go 1939, and I'm going to go with the What's wrong, PB? What?
No, I was going to say that's when Superman was first printed.
What the hell are you doing, Nick? Oh, he's got a Smurf. He's got a Smurf Lego creation here. That's amazing. And it's for those listening.
What Smurf character is that?
Smurfette.
That's right.
Now she slept with all of them.
Right from 1925.
There was only one girl in all of Smurftown, I think.
That's right. Well, no, until they had the little Smurfs, and there was a girl in that little group of little Smurfs. I know there was a name for the little Smurfs. I can't remember what the name was.
Were they born in Sweden? All right.
Okay. My guess is Mutual of Nebraska's.
Mutual of Omaha.
Because everything was Mutual of Omaha's Superman, because everything back then had to be funded by an insurance company.
Okay.
All right.
And what year was that again?
39.
39. So we got 25, 29, 39.
We got 29, 40, 25, 42, and 39. Okay, PB,
right.
Lay it on us.
Come on, PB.
Well, let's get this torment over with.
Spread it like potted meat. Let's go.
In one way, 42 is close, but it's 100 years off.
Oh, shit.
The book is The Adventures of Mr. Obadiah Oldbuck. Written. The Adventures of Mr. Obadiah Oldbuck. Buck.
Is that like John back then?
Yeah.
Obadiah.
Written and illustrated by Swiss caricaturist Rodolfo Topfer in 1837 and later translated and published in 1842 as a bound supplement to the New York published magazine Brother Jonathan.
Good Lord, man.
Holy moly.
We were so close.
Okay.
1842? Like, no.
1837, really, Nick?
No, 42 is when it was published,
Well,
right? I mean,
but it's 37.
it came out in 37.
Wow.
In
and it was republished in Brother John's magazine in 42.
And it was later published in London, but it didn't come to the United States until 1842. So we aim to educate.
So, Chris, no, I was right the first time. 1842. It didn't exist.
If it wasn't in the United States, it isn't real, damn it.
But I will tell you that this is an issue that's been controversial in the comic book world because they're fighting over it. And a lot of comic historians are pushing that the first was a comic called The Yellow Kid. You ever heard of that?
Jaundice?
You mean right here?
Pretty close.
Right here? You see him?
Yeah.
Yep.
But The Yellow Kid started in the late 1800s and eventually got into political issues. And that Yellow Kid comic later led to the coining the phrase yellow journalism.
Oh, no way. Look at that, Chris.
Wow.
PB is dropping knowledge.
I almost went with the Yellow Kid as the first,
Adam.
but then further research found Old Man Obadiah, Oldbuck, and and some.
Is Obadiah black? Just be real just to level with me and Nick. Is Obadiah black?
No, he is not.
He is not.
But
He's from
with a nickname like Oldbuck, I just had to know.
Black people in Sweden.
Well,
I just had to know with a name like Oldbuck.
I know, right?
But the storyline of Obadiah is pretty weird. He's found this lady that when he first sees her, he wants her. He wants to marry her, and she shuns him, and he gets depressed about that and tries to kill himself.
Oh,
and
God.
yeah, and so he comes back again and he tries to warm her up to him, and he gets rebuffed.
Exactly.
He gets rebuffed 5 times before she finally accepts him, and they get married.
And that was the basis for Candyman.
Yeah.
5 times. Obadiah.
Old man Obadiah Old Buck. There.
Wow.
See,
and
you should have known that. That should have come up in your research.
I know.
You were looking up Superman.
I feel a little ashamed that I didn't.
You did it again.
Yeah.
Well, this is what he does to people, right. Adam. Don't feel any shame at all.
Yeah,
and
don't feel shame.
And producer Papa Bear, you've done it again. That is definitely a thing we should know. And we now have the most amazing icebreaker or icebreakers of all time. Sure. You just continue to top yourself. Well done.
No,
well
Chris,
done.
We're all now going to whatever Comic-Con is in our local area, and we're just going to sit back and hold on to that little gem.
No, I'm dressing up as Obadiah.
Bro, 100%. Because they're not going to know what he looks like.
I'm going to be pestering ladies the whole time, and they were like, what's up with this guy? I'm like, I'm in charcher.
Exactly. And the thing is that they're going to be talking about all these characters and all the things that they know, and we're going to say, but I bet you don't know what the first comic book was. Boom.
Well, I'll give you a homework assignment. Go look up the Yellow Kid. Also very interesting. I'm
going to write that down.
He's a New York City tenement kid, wears a yellow dress, has a completely bald head because back in those days, late 1800s, they shaved kids' heads to get rid of lice. And so
the kid was sick.
Well, I'm glad yours grew back.
Yeah, I'm glad it did too.
That's amazing. So the yellow kid wore a dress, had a bald head.
He wore a yellow dress. That's why it was called
yellow dress. Had a bald head to keep him from having lice. And do you know his storyline just really quickly before we get into some filmmaker Q&A?
No.
We'll look it up.
I know it, but he was a political tool. He was a political tool for the cartoonist. And they just put the yellow kid in different circumstances and used him. And that's what led to the yellow journalism because they made fun of things going on in New York City at the time that were political outcomes.
It's the source of The Simpsons. I mean, 100%.
Exactly.
All those characters are yellow.
He's an early Simpson. Exactly.
You did it. You solved it.
He's an early Simpson. But then I also love the comic, the fact that he was calling out even back then this sort of the temptation journalists have to. What happens is, and I'm just saying this as a person who's had some experience in journalism, is you get close to your sources and then you don't reveal those sources. And then if those sources end up being sort of bad people, you have to defend those sources and you don't report on them as hard as you might someone who's not your friend, and so on and so forth. And there's just a lot of different types of yellow journalism, and it's not necessarily direct cowardice. It's actually easy to fall ass backwards into. You just find yourself doing it now for survival at some point, and it does need to be called out. And journalism has to get better really fast, or the whole thing's just going to go away. I mean, people just do not respect journalism anymore. When I went to school for it, it was Walter Cronkite, it was Dan Rather, it was war reporters, and now it is, it was Sebastian Younger. Now it's like
what can I get you to believe versus
for clicks
what is the truth.
It's very clicky now. Yeah, it's very clicky.
Yeah.
So anyway, Nick, drop us some off my soapbox. Drop us some filmmaker Q&A, please.
I will, but before I do that, I have to do two things, right? So one, PB dropped that background that obviously Adam picked up on. So I appreciate that.
So for the listening audience, Papa Bear's background is the Fortress of Solitude from Superman.
That's right. And Adam was like mad quick about picking up on it, which was awesome.
Absolutely.
And then Adam is now looking at my background, trying to find some Easter eggs. And I may not have one for him on the wall. And Adam, just so you know, that's legit. That's a wall there. It's not a green screen, okay?
Once you started showing the Smurfette, then they clicked. That's not a green screen. That's cool.
Exactly. Those are legit Legos, okay? No set here, bro. No set, okay? Right. But I do have a Lego that I made in Legoland, Florida. They have these little Lego pits inside the hotel.
I've been there.
Okay. Yeah. And you can just go in there with the kids and you just make Lego. So one night I was in there and I decided to grab some of the Legos and make something. So I have it. I had my wife bring it to me earlier, and I'm going to show you what I made in the Lego pit with the kids.
Okay, for those listening, Nick is grabbing something. He's now slowly revealing the emblem of Superman, Superman's chest made of.
Try and sell that.
Legos, all in red and yellow. This is one of a kind. No one has this. There's no set to make this, and this was made out of the Lego bricks at Legoland.
Wow!
So yes, it is the size of two Nick faces. If you're just listening, if you take two of Nick's heads and put them side by side, that's how wide they are.
Right, exactly. No color by number. It's just basically a pit that they have of a bunch of different color Legos. They have like red, yellow, white, blue, green, and black. And then you just sit in the pit and you grab Legos, and I decided to make this. And there's a slight imperfection on here. I wanted it to be like perfectly even. And I was fighting with this thing. I was so annoyed with myself. I was like, I made this little imperfection. And this little girl came over and looked at it, and she said, "That's awesome." And I said, "No, but you see this thing right here? There's this one Lego that's out of place." And she said, "No." Put her hand on my shoulder and said,
"Thank God
you did a great job." Wow. And I was like, "Oh," I was like,
"That's wonderful."
It's supposed to be in reverse. Like I'm the one, I'm the adult, right? I'm the one who's supposed to tell the kid they did a great job no, she told me I did a great job. And I said, "You know what? Thank you." And I let it go.
That's awesome.
And that little imperfection, I mean, you can't see it. You can't tell.
We've come full circle where Adam was talking about our propensity to self-hate. Now, I'm not saying you were hating yourself in that moment, Nick, but she reminded you, "Hey, man, you did a great job. You're in a bucket of Legos
I was
right now."
striving for perfection out of a pit of random Legos.
Right.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, come on.
Right. So, childlike sense of wonder. Well exactly. Done. It corrected me. So anyway, all right, man. So I'm going to talk about the Superman stuff. So the first question I have is actually starts out with this. So Selling Superman came out in November, right? Uh-huh. That's when you put it out there. Okay. So in December, we got Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. Mm-hmm. July 11th, right, the documentary. July 11th, we're going to get the new Superman movie. So what has been the impact of releasing a film about Superman so close to when these two films are being released?
Yeah, I don't know, right? Because I can't see all stats and things, and I don't know how it's affecting it either positively or negatively in terms of, how many people see it. That Selling Superman, because of that, is the hype more around Superman, so it's better, or is it too much Superman, so they're excited about that, and there's too many Superman things? I tend to think it's on the positive side, where people are more hyped up about Superman. It's in the zeitgeist. We don't know when independent filmmakers or just filmmakers don't know when other people are going to drop certain things, right? So I knew when Christopher Reeve's doc was coming out in the theater, but they had not announced when it would come out streaming. They had not announced when it would come out on video on demand. So, we by no means trying to plan around that, is what I'm trying to say. You do what's right for your right. project, and people really wanted it and they were ready for it. The comic book community's like, "Gosh, we've been waiting 2.5 years for this. Get this out there." But I'm not in HBO's, calendar, and they're not telling you we're going to do this, this, this. What I can tell you is kind of strange is not strange, but people, HBO comes out with the Christopher Reeve doc, or they bought it and then released it. HBO Warner, they put it on VOD for $10, $12 or whatever it is, and then they come out on streaming a month later, and the audience gets used to that kind of thing. So I'll tell you, it's a little uphill battle on a filmmaker side to release like we are, where people pay $12 because they just think, "Oh, isn't next month it going to be on HBO or something?" And it's not like that. Yeah. It's not always like that. We're talking to streamers, but it could be a year from now, could be 8 months from now. You never know. So a lot of people, I think, that's more what might maybe works against filmmakers sometimes. It's like, "Oh, it's just going to be on streaming sometime, so I'm not going to pay for it." And that's
let me jump in on that. Because I think that's really interesting to me, and I think it's specifically terrible for documentaries, and this is why. It gets back to your why when you make films, and I was thinking about this earlier when you mentioned it. I think the price of entertainment that people think about is free.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And I maybe I agree with you. Maybe I agree with the general population that sugar should be free. Right? Get it anytime you want. Right? It's the cheapest thing you can buy. Right? So get your sugar for free. But documentary is not supposed to be sugar. Right? Sugar's bad for you. It's great. It tastes good. It makes you feel good in the moment. But it's not long lasting and it's not good for you. Right? Mm-hmm. So documentary isn't your sugar. Right? It might be, from the Mary Poppins side, it's a spoonful of sugar that helps the medicine go down.
Yeah.
And the medicine that's going down is the education that you're providing via your documentary. And then it's the inspiration that you're providing via your documentary. And my question, if I could actually ask it to the masses, what's that worth to you? Yeah. That's why I say pay the $12. To pay the $12 if you think that your mental health or your spiritual health is actually worth something to you. Get that free stuff if you all you want on Netflix or wherever, but pay your $12 to actually do something good for yourself.
I agree with that. Thanks for saying that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Sometimes you have to pay for better food, right? You can't just you put it in. You're putting it in your body. You're ingesting it. So, and it helps. It might help the networks in the future. The more people do that, recognize people want healthy food. Right, like they're starting to wake up to in America. Like, hey, we want stuff that's good for us. Also, organic vegetables and things. Same on the media; they might start recognizing, we need stuff that's actually good for us. Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for saying that, Nick.
Yeah, no problem, man.
And I just before we go to the next one, though, Nick, I wanted to say this one thing, which. We have a marketing and branding sort of bent to us, Adam, and we're big proponents of that. We just don't think indie films can be successful without it, and so many indie filmmakers don't even consider it. They have $0 in the budget for it, and we have a pretty strong inclination that they are going to run the Superman trailer for the feature film coming out in the summer during the Super Bowl, and man. If I were you, I'd do some social media buys that same night for selling Superman, and people are gonna look at that trailer, see your ad, they're gonna click on it, and it's gonna equal sales. Go ahead, Nick.
Sweet, good idea.
Yeah,
thanks, Chris.
Yeah, it's a good idea for sure. I mean, again, that's why we're saying this. Like, it's all happening around the same time. Yeah. It really should be a boon.
How do you boon it? Yeah, how do you boon on this stuff?
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been a time in history when we've had too much Superman. I mean, honestly, like it's just, what I'm saying? So bring it on. All right. Yep. So the next thing I've got is this. So one of the things I noticed about the documentary, the Christopher Reeve story, is that in the title, it's super /man.
Yeah.
Right. And I get that might be a take on, it's really Christopher Reeve's story, and he in himself is a Superman, even outside of his role as Superman. But I also think about it from an IP perspective, which is maybe they chose to do super /man so as to not have to deal with the legal side of infringing upon or having to leverage the IP specifically. And I was thinking about this for your documentary. Like, is there anything that you had to do specifically just from a legal standpoint to even call it selling Superman? Is there any, is there a trademark associated with it? I mean, even the colors in the logo, in the title, like, did you have to, what are the legal things that you had to deal with just to leverage that IP as a core part of your story?
Yeah, the first, of course, and my investors asked the same thing. So the first thing before, I really, set up the LLC and got the investors was I did some of that research, called one of the best fair use firms and said, what can I not shoot because of these kind of things? And what can I call the film? There's no problem using the name. It'd be more if you're using the logo the way it looks, right? And one of our earlier logos for selling Superman was tending toward that, but not, we don't use anything like that in our current poster or in the current title of the film. So the look, the trademark look of it, or the S symbol, that might have been issue if we were using that, but the title, I think there's another one about education that used it, like Searching for Superman or something like that. You're allowed to, in essence, they don't own the word Superman. They didn't create it.
Okay.
That's the good part. Yeah. That's the good part about it. And, there's things with Comic-Con and all that. I don't know if Comic-Con Comic-Con San Diego tries to claim that they came up with Comic-Con, which they totally did not. And they try to enforce it on other cons. And that's why Comic-Con has a dash in it, San Diego Comic-Con. And I think in the community, I don't know how much people talk about it, but I'm not so in the comic book community. So I'm allowed to say they act like dicks to basically other Comic-Cons, and they come after them. They do. Right. It's the inside scoop. Comic-Con San Diego comes after littler cons and makes them change their name, and I think people should call them out for it. And it's really ridiculous because they don't own the word convention or con, and they don't own the word comic. But, that's right. That's the justice side of me. That's the superhero justice side.
Yeah, but that's the stuff that you got to deal with. But that's what I mean. That's why it's important to understand these things, right?
Yeah. So on the legal side, we, early on, sometimes you have to blur things on a name brand on a thing. But because we're all about comics, the lawyers assured me that's what you're talking about. So you have to be able to show those logos and the covers of books because that's the topic. As fair use, you're talking about that so you can show it. And it's also why we were able to show a lot of clips from the Superman movies, because I'm making a commentary on the father-son. I'm making a commentary on reality TV shows at one point, right? We make a fake reality show where we fight about Batman and Superman, which you guys were doing earlier in terms of what superhero is the coolest. That's what happens, right? So we wanted a way to get it in there, but that's why I can show reality shows and like the Fortress of Solitude and some certain scenes from Superman. Like, you pass it all by these lawyers that have to say, yes, I agree it's fair use, or I agree it's not. And actually all the movie clips, that was easy. There was other stuff that was a little harder, but the movie clips, no problem. And the title, no problem at all. And if anything, they do a title search to make sure even if there's another movie with the same title, you're allowed to use the same title. That's fine.
Can you share the name of the company for the audience?
The name of the fair use company?
Yes.
Early on, I called because I'm part of the IDA, the Documentary Association, and they work with Donaldson. It's three names. Donaldson. Oh my gosh.
PB can get it. We'll get it later.
But then I used a guy in San Diego for all my fair use named Sam. In Better We Trust is the name of his lawyer company, which is kind of a mindful lawyer, LLC. In Better We Trust. But the Donaldson Group, they were really also helpful just beforehand, just for free, taking my questions because they love documentary people, and even afterwards, being me asking them, making sure I could use certain footage from certain cons, and they're like, no, that's public.
That's super cool.
You're right. Yeah, it was tough.
That's super cool.
That stuff is kind of tough. But
we've ran into our fair share of lawyers that charge you for any conversation. So I think that's super cool because there are lawyers that will charge you for a 5-minute coffee or whatever. Like, it's crazy.
Right. No, they were really, really nice. And then Sam, my guy in San Diego, he's always good to the smaller cats, the indie filmmakers. He's awesome.
Perfect. All right. I got another one for you. All right. So this one is more about, So this one is more about the nature of this particular film, not some of your other ones. Of course, we're talking all about Selling Superman. But I just want to get general advice from you about documentarians who make films about friends and family. Now, we had some guests on earlier who did a documentary called Boobjan, and it was about their grandfather, right? So that's a very close story. One of our favorite documentaries, Chris, I think is now on Disney Plus. Yep. Was it Nine and Waipo?
Nine and Waipo, right? And the same guy made the movie Dee Dee this year.
Yep.
Which so that was one of the best movies of the year.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that was his grandparents, right? His grandmothers on both sides. And it's, about his family. And I think it's
his
really
name
cool.
Is Sean
right?
Wang.
There you go. He's part of
Sean
it.
Yang.
You're
Which
part
one
of
is it, Sam?
And this is a friend.
It's Sean Wang.
But there you go, Sean Wang. Mm-hmm. But he's a friend of yours. So I'm just curious, do you have any just general advice for if anyone's going to do a documentary that's close to them, friends or family, what advice would you give?
Yeah. 100%. The advice I would give is make sure you know the story you want to tell, meaning what's of interest to you, the message you want to send, what you're interested in knowing about. When it comes to me, I love the idea of value, how we value ourselves, how we value these things so much. That was really what I wanted to dive into, so that you have an angle and you have something you're looking at within someone else's life, because what they might want is very different, and they might want a puffed up version. They might not want to show the shadow, and that's not what people necessarily want to see or should see, the puff piece. So I would say make sure you know what you are interested in exploring. And then the second piece of advice would be make sure you have an agreement with the person that respects them also. That's more the movement now in the documentary world and associations, is to not be exploitive and to give them some power to, like you guys even said to me before we came on, feel free to talk about anything. If we need to cut something later, we'll cut it. And that's how I approach things too, is I'll interview you. I want you to feel free to talk about anything. And afterwards, if something's too sensitive or puts somebody else in a tough position, we can edit later. So you kind of give people, I would say, you give them the power of veto in many ways. They're not the creative force. You're the filmmaker. You get to, have a vision and a way you're telling it, but they're allowed to come in and say, hey, wait a second. Like, I think that's actually unfair, and you need to give more clarity around this issue. And, with Darren, we talked about, there's a scene in episode 2-3 with the email from his mom. And he was just like, there's more context to that. Like the general audience isn't really going to know what's going on. So we made sure we added more. And I think it actually strengthened and made the movie better in a couple places where he felt, and I agreed with him afterwards, and looking at it, it's like, oh, that really helps the movie. So work with the person, but it's your vision, that's the key.
I like it. All right. Well, I've got one last one to kind of wrap this all up. And I'll just say that you've mentioned that documentary filmmaking is a play of faith. Mm-hmm. So how do you manage the play of faith in concert with the expectations of investors, financiers, and distributors? Because they don't want to walk on faith, right? They want to walk on delivery and dollars. So how do you manage those two things together?
Meditation.
Yep. Well said. Yeah.
Lots of meditation. No. Lots of meditation and experience and trust. And see, faith, can't rely on, understanding necessarily beforehand. To have faith, there has to be some risk and some amount of relating to the mystery of it all. So on a very tactical level, you only, you stay in touch with and give people, they don't need to see the whole process, right? Okay, here's episode 1. Oh, cool. Now we're starting to see, but they don't have to see it along the whole 6 months of post leading up to, that first 40 minutes and all the changes and stuff you're battling with. But, if there's a good hook, there's a good hook. And this film, Selling Superman always had a good hook, a Superman at 3.5 and a family trauma around it. Like, there's a good hook. And we knew it would be popular. Now the question is, can we deliver it? And I just trusted myself. But and I brought in some good editors, and thankfully it comes together. But you don't want to keep them too updated, right? Show them little steps of the way. And the other thing I would say, because I could talk about this stuff all day, is in going into it, you tell all investors it's the film world. And it could go big financially, and you never know, it might not. But either way, I'm going to make something meaningful and impactful. This will help people that watch it. I trust myself in that. I make entertaining things that move people. Yes, you better have the money to lose it if need be. So they know going in, it's the film world. And I want to make them money always, and I want to make money too, so we can keep doing the next one. They invest in the Aaron's Law or the next and all that. But they're grown men and women. They understand there's a risk, and I think they all recognize it's a great movie. And sometimes the networks and the sales, the forces that be aren't in our hands. But I do fully think, with this one, a network will come in and make my investors whole, and that'd be good for them because they took a leap of faith with me on this one.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, but you got to be honest. Right? Investing in film is risky, so you just got to be honest with people. You can't lie.
Yeah,
makes sense.
We would not recommend lying. Having invested in a few films, and a lot of times a filmmaker's intent isn't to tell you a lie about what the movie is or is going to be, but when things go sideways, you just don't want to be the last person to know as an investor, especially if you're not an ivory tower investor. If you're a creative investor, someone who is producing or wants to be on the set, you want to be in the conversations as decisions are being made when the filmmaker gets curveballs. I think that's one of the most important things, is because I'll just tell you as an investor in films myself, you're investing in the script and the cast, sure, but it almost is more what you're saying, Adam. Like, you're really investing in what we call the founder filmmaker. Right. It's the belief you have in the person making the thing that they can execute it at a level of high quality, or you catch them at the ground floor of their career and you can ride up with them as they start to succeed and get better and better and better. So anyway, Adam.
Yeah, and I always come in on budget always. That's another thing. Don't go over, but I always come in on budget. And I have
yeah.
So that, I make it so I'm not asking for more money. That's number one. Make sure you can do what you can do for that budget. Yeah.
Yeah, come in under budget if you can. Then
I like that.
Add it to contingency, and you will have a lot of options there in post and as you sell and in the festival run for sure. So
budget in for distribution.
Great points.
We budget in for distribution, everything. Because you don't want to go looking for that money after, because then people feel they got you by,
Yeah,
never stop at
you almost have to. You almost have to refund it to not have the loss and not have it be a total wash, which puts people in a real pickle for sure.
Yeah.
But Adam, can you tell everybody? We've been talking about this documentary now for a little bit. Can you tell the people where they can watch it, where they can learn more about you, all that stuff?
Yeah, if you go to sellingsuperman.com, that'll link out to where you can buy it on Amazon Prime, you can buy it on Apple, and you can buy it on Google Play. For people around the world that aren't, UK, US, Canada, if you go to sellingsuperman.com, we have a special edition there as well. So anyone in the world could get that, and that comes with the bonus features and everything. So no matter where you are, you can buy it through that special edition also, that digital special edition. And then for myself, Eye to Eye Productions is my company. I'm working on my 9th film right now, 9th documentary. And if you go to livingeye2eye.com, the word living, letter I, number 2, letter I, eye to eye, because I want to treat people like I would treat myself, which is hopefully good. And I want, people that work for me to rise up. If an editor wants to become a director, I'm going to help you take that step. So that's where Eye to Eye came from. So livingeye2eye.com has all my films and links out to all that. So I appreciate everyone having a look and maybe checking something out.
All right, you heard it here first. SellingSuperman.com, LivingEye2Eye.com. Go out, support this man. He is doing great work in the documentary space, and we will end on this. Adam, what does it mean for you to make it?
Yeah, I'll give. How about 2 answers if I can? The first answer.
We get double time here, Nick.
Yeah. Because the first one I learned quite young. All right, I went to play pro soccer, Nick, and to try out for a team. I went to Ecuador to try out for some teams there. Stayed about 8 months, and came back, played semi-pro in Michigan for the Bucks. Great team. Then I went to Singapore.
Okay, so you were good at soccer.
I was good. I played at Cornell University. I was all Ivy League, there, and we won the Ivy championship. And I'm not a big dude. I'm 5'8", but I'm tenacious, as I was saying before. Anyway, on my way to go to Singapore to try again, my parents were like, hey, dude, hey, dude, they didn't say dude, but they're like, hey, dude, that degree, that degree ain't going to sit around for too long. What are you doing here? Just chasing the dream. And I said to them, I go, look, do you want your son to be happy? You know, like, would that be a success for you? Would that be like, you did a good job, you made it, like your son's happy? And they're like, yeah. I go, well, trust me, like, you did it. Like, I already know happiness. I figured this one out early. You know, I started meditating young. I started reading and understanding and making decisions based on that. And I'm like, I'm happy. Like, you don't have to worry about me. I already made it, Mom and Dad. Go worry about the other kids. You know, and I think from that moment on, they backed off totally. We're like, oh, they felt like a success. You know, they made it. Like, their kid was happy. We don't have to worry about him. Because, you know, if you're a parent, right, you want your kid to be happy. You don't want them to be depressed or struggle with things. If they're happy, that's a huge win, right? So to me, making it is realizing, like, that I am happy, that I'm in control a lot of my happiness. It's not dictated by my success and financial state and all that, because I've been, you know, in tough spots, and I just chose to be happy anyway. So actually, I'll just stick with one answer. To me, I already made it. When I said that to my parents, I already, like, signaled, this is my superpower, and don't worry about me. So
that's a tremendous answer, man.
I love it, man. I
Nick,
love it.
He's basically saying making it is being happy.
Yeah.
That's the question when we ask kids. I think that's when they're really young, right? What does success mean? What do you want to be when you grow up? Happy, right? Yeah. Either that, or they say Superman
or fireman,
right?
Policeman.
But besides that, like, that's it. You just want to be happy, and that is wonderful. And I think the other part of that I really liked is it's not just happy, but you're in control of your happiness.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the key, because you are not dependent upon someone else to deliver happy to you.
That's right.
You are in control of your happiness, and I wish that for everybody.
Same. That's the message of Selling Superman. Like, the power is within to choose how we see ourselves and the world. We do have that power. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, here. And Adam, I hope you'll visit us again. I hope you'll stay in touch. We'd love to do a round 2 with you. Best of luck on Aaron's Law. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I know all the filmmakers out there are going to love it and find it both educational and entertaining, and hopefully a little inspirational, and, like we mentioned before, a little reflection in there as well here at the end. And if you want to learn more about us here at the Make It Podcast, you can do that at themakeitpodcast.com. You can also subscribe, like, follow, review. All that stuff is really important. I know every single podcaster on the freaking planet says it, but they say it for a reason. It's become cliche, but it really does make a difference. So if you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe and like the video, drop some comments. We reply to all the comments on the community page and beyond. If you're on Apple or Spotify and you're just listening to this thing, I shouldn't say just listening. That's a great thing. If you want to listen to it, awesome. Go to Apple, Spotify, rate us 5 stars if you like what we're doing and you appreciate the work we're doing for independent filmmakers and filmmakers of all kinds and creators of all kinds out there. Please support us on those platforms. We also have, for the winter season, the warmest, softest hoodies and sweaters you can imagine, along with caps, at cottonbureau.com. Again, that's cottonbureau.com. And just search for the Make It Podcast, and our shop will come right up. We have incredible designs there. And Cotton Bureau rejects 90% of all designs. They have ours in the shop. So go there again. Soft, buttery soft hoodies, crew necks, hats,
buttery, Adam,
long sleeve tees. Yeah, go support it. I mean, if you're making it, wear your journey is what we say, Adam. Like, if you're in LA, go get one that says LA. If you're in DC, go get one in DC. If you're in Chicago, Sydney, Tokyo, London, you name it, we have shirts for you that represent where you're at and that you're producing where you are, to quote Ryan Hartsock. So there you go. Cottonbureau.com, search for the Make It Podcast. And with that, Nick, can you please leave us with the credo?
Of course. And Adam, thank you again so much. We appreciate you. We definitely appreciate that last statement about your happiness and owning your happiness. We appreciate the fact that this is a kind of a perfect marriage. We have like Chris says, a lot of times we bat 1,000 on these conversations because we believe that the universe sends us the right people to talk to at the right time. And it has proven itself again in this conversation. You are so well aligned with our credo and the thing that I'm about to state to our audience here. And again, this was a great conversation to kind of cap out our week. So with that, thank you. I'll also add that we're going to drop this motto and more like our core principles on people, which are be better, be creative, be engaged.
And thank you for listening. Adam, Nick, talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, man. Adam, we'll have to do it again, brother. This is amazing.
Fantastic. Love you guys. Awesome.
Sam, Papa
we
Bear,
appreciate
love you,
you,
guys.
dude.
See you.
Yeah,
Peace.
love you guys.
Awesome.
Take it easy.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.